Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Starting Grid Formula One YouTube channel. Today, I am joined by my co-host, as usual, Loz.
Hello.
And I'm also joined by a very special guest today. We have Stephen in. Yeah. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm alright. I'm doing well. Watched the Brazilian Grand Prix. I was going mad about it. So as a Lewis fan, so yeah, hoping
we
the
can
Qatar
kind of tell by your
Yeah.
surname.
Yeah, I think you can tell by the hashtag already. So yeah.
I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Obviously. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about obviously the weekend's events, what's happened, qualifying, the race, the sprint, everything like that. We're going to talk a little bit about Giovinazzi, Alfa Romeo, and we're going to look ahead to the weekend at Qatar as well, because obviously a little bit unknown. We've not raced here before. So yeah, we're basically going to talk about all things current events. So yeah, without further ado, I guess we'll just start with the race. Well, not the race. Where do we start? Qualifying. So yeah, qualifying. Obviously, you know, we had the qualifying on Friday night. It was a sprint weekend, the third one of the year, I think it was. So obviously, you know, not really sure what to expect from that. We weren't sure with how Mercedes and Red Bull would kind of cope with this track. So you know, what's your take on qualifying, Stephen? Do you want to sort of?
To be honest, when I looked at a practice session, initially, I don't usually look at practice sessions as a given because different programs that teams are running at different times, so you're not quite sure. But when I saw qualifying after the first session, you could immediately tell Lewis had hooked it up straight away and was straight on the pace. And it was kind of surprising to me because after watching Mexico, I was kind of surprised that Mercedes would also be dominant here as well. I knew he'd had to take an engine penalty, which might help around Brazil, but still to be able to qualify that with such ease and do sort of what Max Verstappen had been doing all season, which is as much as Lewis had been trying to find the time to get faster, Max would always just pick out another time that will be even 3/10 faster than that, and Hamilton seemed to do that on him all of a sudden. So yeah, I was pleased with qualifying until the next morning until I woke up. Like the next practice session to find out he'd been disqualified. So
yeah, we'll get onto that. What did you think, Loz?
Yeah, with kind of the qualifying and the practice, I think, as Stephen just said, yeah, we were seeing that kind of Hamilton pace and that, you know, don't want to say passion in a weird way. Like, I think he always has the passion, but I think there was something driving him a little bit more during this weekend. And I think probably because as well, he probably did know he'd need the engine change. So he knew that he'd be, you know, looking at a penalty or as he got disqualification. So that's probably pushing him. But I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like this qualifying format at all. I am not a fan of it.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I agree with you both. Obviously, it was, you know, again, I couldn't see going into it who was going to, but obviously, you know, Mercedes were looking strong. Obviously, Lewis ended up being, was it 4/10 quicker than Max? So, you know, he obviously had that pace in the car. And what you said about the sprint qualifying, I'm one of the very few people who actually quite likes it. And I feel like that's probably a controversial opinion within itself. Like, I feel like one of the things that I'm welcome to it at certain tracks, and I think Brazil is one of them tracks that it does kind of work on. Obviously, again, we'll go into that again after. But yeah, it was. I
think my take on sprint qualifying is I've always been the traditionalist myself. So I've always been the traditionalist. You had qualifying, that was it. Set the standard for the race, and like to be honest, it worked quite against me because I wanted for my sake. Lewis ended up being disqualified. The actual sprint race helped him out a lot in the end.
Well, yeah, true.
Saved 15 odd bloody places there. Again, which just incredible performance to be able to get 15 places in 24 laps. But but I think for sprint qualifying, what I find with sprint qualifying and what I found this season is the reason it didn't work quite at Silverstone or maybe even sometimes at Monza as well is because they're doing it for me in the wrong season. They need to be doing this next season Like they come out this next season with already designed new cars, going to be closer racing, about the downforce levels being about 14%, rather than like 42% of what they are now. So the cars will be a lot closer and be able to overtake more. So in that case, then you should be doing this testing next season, because then surely it's going to work at every single track you go to.
Yeah.
So if you really wanted the way to see if it worked, next season would have been a great way. So at the minute, they're like, does it work or doesn't it work? Does it work? Does it work? So
I suppose we'll get a better idea of that next year. I mean,
I think they
to be
might do
fair,
some more races of tests, to be honest.
yeah.
I
To be
do.
fair though, like, I mean, I don't love it. I don't think it's the best thing in the world. I just think I'm one of them people, like, I think I'm a bit of an opposite to you. I'm not a traditionalist. I like things, I like a bit of change, and I like trying something new. So that's why I think I was so welcome to it. But obviously, I think we'll just have to see how it goes next year. And obviously, it's being used more.
It is a Formula sport, so it changes.
Well, yeah,
year on year,
exactly.
so.
But yeah, we will obviously get on to sprint qualifying a little bit after. But I just want to quickly touch on the disqualification and the whole fines and everything. Obviously, we knew. I mean, when it came out, obviously DRS infringement, we knew that what the penalties for that is, what the result would be. And I think the thing that got me is why it took so long for them to come to this decision, because we all knew what was. I mean, I did, and a lot of people on Twitter seemed to know what was going to come. So why did they take so long to come to this decision? I mean, I don't know what your thoughts on it, Stephen, but obviously you're not going to be happy with it. But
I mean, look, I think the thing for me is that technical infringement is technical infringement. So they've got. You can't have a grey area in that. You've got to be black and white. You could say, yeah, even though he had a technical infringement, it wasn't going to mean it was going to be 4 tenths slower that Max was going to get popped. So, but even then, it's a technical infringement. You've got to stick by the rules. So, even if you're 1 milligram outside the minimum weight, for example, that's disqualification. So, I don't have a problem with that. I think the problem is the reason they're taking so long, and you see now even with the latest one they're letting it till tomorrow, is because they know how pivotal this is for the championship right now. It's been, whereas before they could just make a decision at this stage of the season because Hamilton's wrapped it up by now and it's pretty much nailed on. So now it's so close between the two of them that they don't want to do anything that harms another driver in terms of winning a championship and how it looks to the fans. So they don't the fans want to see a race and want them to battle it to the end, but then again they've got to try and apply the rules at the same time. So that's why I think they're trying to take their time with every decision they're making. In terms of them two, rest of the grid is not so much a problem, but the two title contenders and also the two constructors as well, Red Bull and Mercedes, that's why they're taking so long with it.
Well, yeah, because obviously, it wasn't a given that Lewis was going to have this amazing weekend and he was going to go and win it. That wasn't a given. That penalty, that's disqualification.
Nowhere,
exactly, that disqualification.
I think for me, it shows again that this thing with Hamilton is that he knows he's backed against the wall.
Yeah.
And he just won't give in. He did. That's the thing with Lewis, and it's one thing. It's always standing with me. This like that follow Lewis a lot throughout his career is that his whole motto, the way he goes about things, never giving in. That's why I've always been a Lewis fan. So it's just that mentality is just so much better than everyone else's. Everyone has to raise their game so much, and hence why no one's been able to beat him so much. Even Vettel came close, and now he mentally beat him in the mental game as well. So yeah, so this is where, and also for Max, he's now like he's got this 19-point lead, or now it's been cut to set at 13 points. Now he's like, what do I do? Like we got a rampant Lewis with a new engine in it, like, and he's like, how the hell do I do this? And he's never had this before in his life of having to be able to manage this gap to win the championship. So there's a new pressure, and it's getting to him. You can tell it already.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. What do you think about the disqualification as in-laws?
I think, yeah, it was always going to happen. I think they need to make example out of drivers, how big or small in terms of down the track and what team they're in. They've got to, be consistent when it's kind of these technical infringements. I've said this before on this channel. I think the actual rulings and some of the fines and penalties that have been given this season have been a joke. I think it's been really inconsistent across the board. 1 week we're getting penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty. And it's getting boring. Like the other week, what race was it? We had pretty much half the pack.
Yeah.
At the back of the grid, because we've got these engine changes. If this is becoming so common that cars are needing to change their engines so much, we need to change the rulings. We need to make it, you can have more engine changes.
The allocation, yeah.
Something needs to happen, because at this moment in time, this rule is evidently outdated, and it is killing the sport. These continuous penalties and things like that it's just getting boring. This one, I can understand exactly why Mercedes want to review this. I know we've not got onto it yet. I've just gone on an absolute tangent. But I can understand why Mercedes are wanting to review this and get it, Maxwell potentially, he could have a time penalty. I can understand why they want to do it, because they are in a title race. But, sorry, Stephen and Chelsea, but do I think it's needed? No, I really don't. And I would just now adding another penalty onto the already stacked penalties for this season.
Yeah, I can see.
It's hard on it's frustrating.
I can see both sides of it, and like I said, we'll obviously get onto that after.
I will just quickly say, at least like with Mercedes, they're actually just applying a penalty. Like at least when Red Bull tried to submit a review, they tried to put a penalty on a penalty. So,
true.
And even then, they still didn't lose. They still didn't win. So
I know.
Well, going back to the whole affecting the championship and stuff, obviously I'm not going to focus on this too much because obviously it was done, but the whole max €50,000 fine, for example. Now, I think, personally, in my opinion, I think that's probably the right thing to have done. I don't think it should have been a penalty, like a grid penalty or like an actual penalty to do with the race, because yes, he shouldn't have touched the car in part failure conditions. That's the rules. But do you know what I mean? Like, he literally sort of thing. And I think that would have
made no impact on the.
That's what I mean. So, and I think if you're going to dish out grid penalties and stuff like that, I think that would have been. I don't think I would have liked that, no matter how much I want Lewis to win the championship. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know how you two feel on that.
The belts at the end of the race.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's not affecting the race. It's not. Do you know what I mean? So, I don't think that was.
When other drivers are joking about it, you can tell how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
As Vettel was taking the piss with his
25 grand
technician, it's you just think like that's how stupid it is when other drivers on the grid are laughing.
But you get with the engine penalties, and I get where you're coming from with that. But the thing is that the reason they've set it out like this, and you get 3 parts, and the whole 6, you get with the 6 components, you get 2 of them. I think it's the energy store and the control electronics are 2 parts. The rest are all 3 parts you get throughout a season. The reason they've done that, obviously, and the reason also they're doing it for 2022 is to cut costs. Like, you only allowed certain developments, you only get certain tokens next season to develop the car to cut costs, to stop big teams like Mercedes and big firms like Red Bull dominating in terms of prices and costs, because that's why they're at the front, because they're spending so much more than the other teams who can't compete. So it's now down to what they've done is now budget cap and made sure that the budgeting is more self-sustainable, so that teams can make it more affordable to be able to get up the front and now actually challenge. So that's why they've set it out like this. Maybe there should be like there's an engine you can use if you've run out, but then after that, then yeah, I'm sorry that you're gonna have to take a penalty, because most of these are most efficient engines on the planet. You're not gonna get better hybrid engines in this. And at the peak of their performance, to be honest, back in the day, you used to have teams replace gearboxes after qualifying and engines after qualifying for an engine for a race. So the fact, and even then, the engine would still blow up. So after about 10 laps, so the fact that they are managing to last 6-7 races before a switch is quite incredible in terms of reliability. So if you imagine applying the penalties back then, like, we'd have half the grid at the back all the time. Like the first 10 rows would be empty. So, like,
yeah, it's one of them, and it's just, I guess, you know.
I think they just need to move with the times, don't they? I think that's the thing. Is if we're you know, we're making all these improvements to the sport with the engines and the caps and the designs, then we need to look at the rule book as well.
Yeah,
we need to be updating from the bottom to the top.
Like the driver licensing thing as well is that as well. I mean, like Norris got some like 3 points on his. Like, I mean, Hamilton had so many points on his license at one time, like for little sort of like start infringements in Russia and that and all that. And it built up to about 10 points. And people saying, well, he's a dirty driver. No, actually, if you look at his record, he's one of the cleanest drivers to ever grace the sport. Like, he's been one of the most fairest and cleanest drivers in the sport, which is why when he had that incident in Britain with Max, and then we had all that penalty, like they spent 2 weeks in a simulator of Albon, gave him some actually track time in a simulator, like, to simulate an accident, just to get him a bigger penalty, and then say, oh, it's nothing personal. Like so, yeah. For me, yeah, it's a bit stupid. Some of these licensing penalties. You don't even know how it works sometimes, because sometimes they don't get points. For
I don't think they know.
Sometimes I don't. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't even know how they know they work either. So that needs a huge review as well, because it's stupid as well. Because like a guy who's consistently been one of the most fairest and cleanest drivers in the sport, compared to the one they all compare to, which is Michael Schumacher, then like, how is he getting 10 points out of 12? Is beyond me.
Yeah, they just need to move on, like Ross said, move on with the times and sort of, you know, get to a point where, you know, they look at these things and think about them in more sort of detail. But yeah, that's that. But moving on, sprint qualifying, obviously, we'll talk about that now. I'll just quickly say what I was going to say. Look, again, it's not the most exciting thing in the world. I think the only thing that made this sprint qualifying exciting was the disqualification. Because I mean, I don't know about you two, but I personally wasn't really watching what anyone else was doing. I was just waiting for the Lewis overtakes, and I was like, because it was, you know, what was it, P20 to P5 in 24 laps? Like, that's insane. Like, that just shows the level of talent, the level of driver he is. We know that anyway, obviously. But yeah, I mean, what a drive from Lewis. I'm sure you'll both agree.
I think people could quite easily say, yeah, but he's got an engine change in a Mercedes, like against an Alpine or an Aston Martin. Yeah, right. He's supposed to make those overtakes, but it's not so much about making those overtakes. It's quite easy to think, oh, I've only got 24 laps. I've got to get this done now. Like, and then dive down turn one and lose your front wing within the first turn. Sometimes the best drives come when they've not even hardly gained any positions off the start line at all. So for me, it's the discipline of knowing when to pick your moment to make the overtake, when you know it's the right time to make the move. And that's something that Lewis seems to have so much more mental capacity to be able to read that, compared to so many other drivers that are on that grid. And that's what separates greats from the other drivers on the grid, is they have the mental capacity to be able to not just drive the car, but look around on what's going on around them and be able to pick when the right moment is to go and take that position.
Exactly. He knew what he was doing, obviously. He knew he had 24 laps to... It was, at the end of the day, it was... I think the word they used was damage limitation. It was damage limitation. He needed to get as high up with the grid as he could because obviously he knew he was getting to the 5th place penalty, and you could see like when they were showing the overtakes, like he was taking his moments. He knew what he was doing when he was doing it. Like
he wasn't rash with it. He knew that he had a certain small window to get it right.
Well, that move on Lando, for example, like what a move! Like, obviously, I love Lando Norris, but like I was full on Lewis fan this weekend just because of everything that was going on. And like when he made that pass on Lando, like you wouldn't. There's very few drivers that you would trust and sort of, you know, with that risk of making moves like that.
Lando,
and Lewis is one of them.
A real problem with Hamilton this season. You saw in Austria
as
well. He's been a right problem with him as well, and he's had to say he's a bloody good driver. Get out of my way. Like he's sort of like that. But like, one of and you knew it's going to be one of those moves he's going to have to pull off to like get past Lando. But yeah, it's sort of what I just. That for me was just like going back in sort of because I know in 2 years' time when Toto leaves, Hamilton's gonna leave. He's gonna go.
100%,
he's going
definitely.
So like for me, it's like looking back at the time and looking at some of the great drives he's done already. Turkey in 2020, for example, is just one out of two. Monaco 2008, Britain 2008, like. Britain 2019 only because
the list is endless.
Like Britain in 2019 is because I was only there. That's the only reason. That one. But yeah, so many like drives that he's done. Fuji 2007, his first season.
Just naming them all.
I'm just naming
keep
them
going.
all off. I'll just keep going all night. So yeah, just some of the moves. And you could go for every season. You could find one or two drives that you've been quality in. And he's not even won the race. So
100%.
That's the thing. So I think if there was any driver who's going to make up places to be able to go and challenge for the race itself, it's going to be him. It's going to be Lewis Hamilton.
Loz, what was your overall take on sprint quali?
This was Hamilton's performance of his career.
Yeah.
And that is a very, very big statement, especially just from a sprint race. I think I think he did actually come out and say this, that this whole weekend has been the most memorable of his career or something something along those lines. And I do think that from coming from the back to getting 5th in 24 laps, and that's stupid. That's not normal. Like, there's probably a handful of drivers of all time you would say could do that.
True.
And I'm not here to have it's the car. I'm not seeing Bottas do that.
Exactly. When Bottas starts at the back of the grid, you don't see him charging through like that.
No. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not seeing George Russell do that when he gets in that Mercedes. That is an elite drive, and not many people can do it. Whatever car you're in.
Agreed.
That was genuinely that's one of them things you sit back and you're in awe of.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Doing that.
And when you think of it all the times going through, like, don't forget when you join Mercedes were nowhere. They won one Grand Prix when he just started.
Yeah.
One Grand Prix. The pole position was taken off him because of an incident in Spain with Schumacher. So, and he was replacing Schumacher, which was the last seven-time world champion. So, and it's funny enough, when Schumacher retired in 2006, Kimi Räikkönen went from McLaren to Ferrari. Who went in the McLaren? Lewis Hamilton. So, you know what I mean? So, maybe Schumacher needs to come back and help us out. So, might call Mick, see if he can help.
Yeah.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? It'd be nice to see him.
Hold up Max a little bit. But look, the thing is that car has been developed over time. You saw in 2017 it struggled in Monaco, and it struggled in Monaco in 2018, and then you got to Singapore where again they were expecting it to be nowhere, and then he pulls a lap time out, and even the pit lane, like, has he done that? And if you watch it back, there's not one wheel spin, there's not one understeer, there's 24 corners, and he calls it literally Monaco on steroids. Like what it is, it's literally its bigger brother, and it's
Pretty
like
much,
24 relentless corners on a street circuit, and he's pulled that sort of time out. Now I haven't seen that. No one's seen that since Senna in 1988 with the McLaren, right? So, and that's probably also the reason why the 2021 Brazil, was one of his most special moments, because
Yes.
it's 30 years on since his hero won it for the first time at Interlagos, and especially after the reception he got in 2008 as well, fighting a Brazilian for the championship. Like, to have that, like, sort of, and I actually know someone who was there, like, to have that sort of reception from the Brazilian crowd after his hero won there. So yeah, that's probably why it's been one of his most memorable weekends.
I think as well, because in the past recent weekends, it's been very heavily Max fans.
Yes.
You know, just getting booed whenever he's, you know,
after British Grand Prix, there was a lot of it, and I was getting sick of it, to be honest.
Yeah. So I think Hamilton also needed this from the crowd, and you know, that kind of reception he had. I think he did need that.
So I will just say, to be fair, with the Dutch Grand Prix, the actual Dutch fans weren't like that at all, to be honest. I will actually give them that.
They were just passionate, I think. Like,
they were passionate. They weren't booing it.
They weren't, to be fair.
So I wouldn't say that, to be honest, with them. So I think it was more Italian fans. I get it, because it's unless it's if you don't win, if it's anyone else like winning apart from the Ferrari, like, they don't care. Like, like,
don't mess with the Tifosi.
Yes. But like Hungary was definitely one. I was just like, come on, seriously. Like, that's why I really wanted him to win that one. But like, someone made the wrong call, the tires, but there you go.
Let's not talk about. But yeah, like, I mean, onto the race now, I guess. Like, I mean, it wasn't the most eventful race, but I think it was mainly, a lot of it was just centered on Lewis and the sort of comeback drive, I suppose. I mean, I just want to say quickly that at work on the Sunday, I was like, I think Lewis is having this. He's going to come back. He's going to go through the field, and everyone at work was like, nah, he's not having it. This is Max's. Like, not a chance is he going to give Max a run for his money.
I said,
and I was like, no, I was like, I'm having it. This is a Lewis win, and I was right. So.
Should be a betting woman, eh?
I should have put a bet on it.
Do you know what? As soon as he came out of turn 1 and then came out of turn 4, I saw him make up, but he got up to about 6th, and I saw him. I think he had the two Ferraris in front of him. So he gets by his 2 Ferraris, he's on for a winner.
Well, exactly. It's about P5 by lap 3, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which is insane.
So I know Bottas. As soon as Bottas sees that sort of blacked out car behind him, that's it. He's going to jump out
the way.
Yeah,
here's the thing: people saying, "Oh yeah, but he gets Valtteri to move out of the way." But hang on, you want Perez to move out of the way for Max Verstappen? Hang
exactly.
Come on, like,
team order is always going to be a thing.
So, and here's the thing: throughout the Grand Prix, while Max is still moaning about his tires, like, he's sitting there going, "Where's Valtteri? Like, what's Valtteri doing?" Like, because he's worried about the constructors at the same time.
Yep.
Yes.
Mental capacity. He's not worried about himself. He's worried about also the team and
team
what
effort.
The team needs to do. So, but yeah, as soon as he got past the 2 Ferraris, I said, now, like, but now Bottas will jump out of the way, and then the Red Bull's going to have hell to pay, because if he's got that gap, they've got that much of a developed car, because that's not just the engine. No way, that's just the engine. I'm not going to sit there and believe.
No.
And then a new and good one component from that car of a power unit change is the whole reason they've got that pace. No way. They found a sweet spot with that car, like they did in 2018, and that is where he's most dangerous, because if he finds a sweet spot, he finds bucket loads of time. And you saw
Red
it. Max
Bull knew they were in trouble.
Yeah.
They knew they were in trouble when they saw Hamilton behind, and Perez said, "You need to keep me in Max's DRS zone."
And Max was
because
like,
he
no, I'm
knew
gonna
that
get.
Ham was on the back of him.
And he said, I need the DRS, and like, but Max was too busy trying to build a gap. So it's like, I still think, to be honest, Hamilton would have still got him, to be honest, even if they did. So, but we'll never know. But I do feel that Max was, again, because he's so focused about winning his first title, which is understandable, right? Because you probably say that with Hamilton back in 2008, because McLaren didn't win the constructors year that year, the Ferrari did. So that's another thought. If everyone wants to mention, he did it, won it in the quicker car. Right? But it's like, because he's so focused about it, of course he wants, but like, he's going to be focused about winning his first title. So he's not going to be so worried about the team and worried about what Perez needs and what Red Bull need. They need the 1-2 to get back in front of Mercedes. So yeah, maybe the better decision was to keep him out. But I think what the problem is that Christian Horner's backed this guy so much, like, and the amount of stuff that this guy, I called him like the Arteta version of F1, like, because he's a professional waffler, this guy.
Well, yeah.
Like, yeah, he's honestly, like, he's either that or the professional bullshit. But he's backed him so much. I think that he wanted him to just make sure he gets a gap, and it was more, it's Max Verstappen racing rather than Red Bull. Because if you've seen with Gasly, Albon, and now Perez struggles at times to get qualifying up to even fourth, which is the minimum. Gasly didn't make it. Albon didn't make it. So what do you expect?
I do think like it has come from
that car
Horner.
developed for Max only.
Yeah,
That's
I do. Because I think that's the thing. I think there's a level of immaturity from Verstappen, because what he is, he's so used to being so protected by Horner. He's like a kid that's grown up as an only child, and then a baby comes along and he's got to share, but he doesn't know how to share because he's never been taught to share. Because Horner sits him so high on this pedestal. And it's like, Max doesn't race for the team. He just races for himself. And in a way, that's kind of not a criticism to him, personally, because it is, although it is a team sport, it is also an individual sport. So you do have to think a number one as well. But I think if Horner really wants Red Bull to be up there, they're always competing, but if he wants them to be consistently winning constructors, he needs to create a team just like McLaren do, and they're a level playing field. You don't have a 1 and 2 driver in McLaren. That's what Red Bull need, because at the moment the dynamic is way off to ever really challenge for constructors year in year out.
With Vettel and if you see before the hybrid era, it's kind of what happened with Vettel and Webber. Vettel, because it were very level in 2010, but as soon as 2011 came, Vettel, I think, took that understanding of going to find out what Pirelli were doing with their tyres and how they made the tyres, and that's, I think, why he had such a knowledge of their tyres at the start of it all with these new Pirellis. So and hence why he took such a commanding lead that season. And like, obviously since then it's been a development, and really Red Bull won't really develop towards Webber. They've been more prone to Vettel because it's come from their academy. Like, it's his academy it's come from. So of course they're going to go back in. And it's kind of like the same for Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen's come from the Red Bull family, so, and the academy. So they're going to back him over Perez, who's like come from Force India, who came from McLaren, and didn't really make it work there. So,
well, I think that's why they do it. Obviously, they spend. I think Red Bull do spend a lot of time developing this young driver,
That's why they have
like
AlphaTauri, don't they?
Yeah, well, yeah. But obviously they did that with Seb, but obviously they're doing it with Max now. They put all these into him. And I think now he's got this championship lead as well. They're going to be thinking, right, this could, we could win this. We're ahead in the championship. And as bad as it sounds, and obviously you don't want to say that you prioritize a certain driver, but they are going to be prioritizing Max, and they've probably got more chance of winning the drivers' championship than the constructors. So they're probably going to put all that time and effort into Max, which, whether it's right or wrong, it's a different opinion.
I'll be very surprised they win the constructors.
Yeah, I don't think they will. Nah.
I think for me, if they're going to win anything, it's going to be the drivers. And
It'll be the drivers.
They've been so focused on it this season because they've spent 7 young years having to sit there watching Mercedes bask in all the glory. Like, like, take a picture while you're at it. But like, they've watched it all happen, and they've sat there and they've never even got close. So they've been this close because they've been now so close, this close to it since 2012 was the last sort of close battle they had. They don't want to miss this chance because next season they could be at the back of the grid. This is the whole thing.
It's true.
Next season,
just don't know next season, do we?
We can all thinking Mercedes and George Russell might be at the top of the grid. If they all get it wrong, we're going to be sitting here watching him getting knocked out in quali 1.
Williams will be at the top of Mercedes.
Has to spend nothing. They could be at the top of the grid before you know it. Like, you never know. Mick Schumacher will become the champion. You never know. But God help it might be Mazepin.
Oh God, imagine.
Oh, God.
Don't think you've got, even if you've in the best car, I don't think you've
got the podium with him on it. Jesus.
Oh God.
Jeez, no. I'd switch that off. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll leave that.
Nick's thrown, honestly.
Yeah, that's the thing. So they don't want to, and that's the same for Mercedes and Hamilton. He wants to win his 8th so badly. He doesn't want to let it go. And because they don't know what's happening next season. They are so desperate to win it. But I think Mercedes, they've got a better dynamic in their car to be able to set it up for both drivers. And I think they've got 2 similar drivers in the way they drive. Yeah. It's just that Bottas is not as good at delivering the goods when it matters compared to Hamilton and the mentality of it. Mentality counts for everything in F1. If you get beaten in mentality, like if you it's one of those, you get thrown into the river as mentally as in F1. If you swim, you're great. If you start drowning, you get worse and worse and worse, and before you know it, mentality's beating you and you're out. And I think
that's why Bottas hasn't hit the heights. Not saying he would have ever hit the heights of Hamilton, but he's never really kind of even really been on that level playing field. And I think, as you say, mentality plays a massive role in it. I think the mental strength and the mental want to be the best, I think they're poles apart, them two. I think Bottas does love the sport and he is a good driver, but does he have the push and the drive like Hamilton does? I don't think so.
No.
And I think it has been beat down being in that second seat at Mercedes. I think it does play a big part in someone's mental strength if you are that second driver in Mercedes next to Hamilton.
That's why I feel like he's going to thrive at Alfa Romeo, because I feel like everyone's going to, obviously they're going to sense that team around him. Obviously they've got him and Guan Yu Zhou now, so obviously they're going to center the team around this experienced driver, a bit like Kimi Räikkönen, to be fair. Obviously both finished as well.
I think like with Bottas as well, because don't forget he was doing really well at Williams.
Yeah.
When he was signed, that's why he signed for Mercedes, because he was really doing well at Mercedes, and people were wondering at the time, like, as well he was a good driver, people were still wondering at the time, but you have Pascal Wehrlein at Manor, who's a Mercedes Academy driver, who then never got a look in, and they were like, yeah, but we see something in Bottas, and the thing is they could develop a car that will work for both drivers, and they seem, and also, as much as he's had to bow down to Lewis all the time, like, it's only because, like, when it gets to a certain stage of the season, he's so many points ahead. Yeah. Like, and what do you want Hamilton to do? Just, like, slow down and give him all the points back?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what I mean? So, like, in the end, he has to. So, like, and they have such a good working relationship there, like that's been built over so many years. And the more championships you win, the better the relationship gets. So
Just going to quickly, whilst because I'm just getting a bit concerned, we've literally not even really spoke about the race, but just a quick, but for both of you, what's a quick sort of summary, like what's your overall thoughts on the race, because we've still got quite a bit to talk about. So I was saying, what quick summary? What do you think? What was your overall overarching thoughts?
Do you want to see? I thought it was very entertaining.
Yeah.
Not just because of Lewis' view, but just a general view as well. I think there was battles all going through the field as well, which you want to see. And Brazil always does that. So interesting strategy calls at times, because it was kind of a different sort of strategy on tyres. They were very degrading. Those tyres seem to be degrading a lot more than they were during the Grand Prix. And but like I said, it's just dominated over the fact of Lewis just being just a class act. So you can't go any further than that, really. So what I will say is, from McLaren had a shocker.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think that's Ferrari.
They're not helping. Yeah,
to be honest,
they're not helping.
I know
themselves in that Ferrari battle.
That then.
Daniel retired.
So close.
Yeah. I don't know what was happening there, but they've had a mare.
Ferrari are doing so well at the minute. These developments they brought in.
They've got a good car. They're just not good down a straight line. You put it in a straight line, it goes like a Ford Fiesta. It doesn't go anywhere. You put it around corners, it's like the next thing. It's like the next thing, since the last Mercedes in 2014. It's so much. It's quite a decent car. So so Ferrari got a decent package. Yeah, it's just that the straight line speed doesn't work, and it's only because they've been told to take some of the fuel out of the fuel flow, that they were doing, or whatever they were doing with that engine.
Well, yeah. Loz, what's your thoughts on the race overall?
It was entertaining. Was it my favourite? No, there was parts where I kind of did trail off a little bit. But you're always going to get that in Formula One. Not every lap is going to be an exciting lap. You're not going to constantly be seeing overtakes and fights. But I do genuinely think that there was some good battles in the middle of the pack as well. Some decent overtakes.
Gasly and the Alpines.
Exactly. Yes. I think Gasly did really, really well.
He's such a good driver. He doesn't get the respect he deserves. I really don't think he doesn't. He
does not get the respect he deserves at all. I think that the way he got shunned from Red Bull, I think, put quite a dampener on just his name and the respect towards him. And I think after his win, I do think he gained a bit of respect again.
Yes.
But I think people have got to be kind of sitting up now and saying, look, Gasly is really good. It was a very mature drive from him this weekend, I think. And I think we are seeing him kind of mature into the driver that he will be if he can continue in the sport, because you just have to worry what will happen to him at the end of his AlphaTauri contract.
Exactly. We've said this.
That's a big worry.
I think he'll find a team. I think it'd be stupid if he doesn't find a team in F1 somewhere. But this is where the whole new rules come into it, because there's so many teams that are saying that they want to be in the sport, but it's just so expensive. So, but having this more self-sustainable way will get more teams on the grid, because I think their idea was 20, 24, 25 sort of races with about 13 teams, which 26 cars. So it gives everyone, gives young drivers a chance to get in.
Yeah, so, I think that's the problem.
Yeah, and I think Gasly, to be honest, I've seen that since, do you know what? Even since after the Belgian Grand Prix, after he lost his friend Anton Hubert.
Yeah.
And what was the tip of that was the Italian Grand Prix last year, and winning that race.
Yeah.
Be able to win that race, and he's been able to kick on from there. And I honestly think the only reason he's not been picked by a Red Bull again is just because of what happened the first time. And of course, to be honest, I don't think it would work if he went back again. To be honest,
I wouldn't want to see him back there.
No,
no, because he'll
I don't
just
think I
play.
would.
I think he'll just play second fiddle to Max
Exactly.
Verstappen, or he will have to not get the same upgrades or a different sort of spec car. So for me, like I would just say that
Why
he
not?
lucky he gets any respect.
Does he?
Mazza spin.
Mazza spin, yeah.
So yeah. Did you see like how Gunterstein had bought him a spinning top to make sure he didn't spin the car instead?
Yeah, I feel like Haas are doing this to try and push the narrative that Mazepin isn't a bad person, because he's like, oh, we can have a laugh.
Well, did you see the TikTok? A girl made a really funny TikTok. She was like, "Oh, the Haas PR team trying to make people like Mazepin," and then a video gets released of him having a fight with a bouncer in a club, and she's like, and the PR team are like, "Quick, get the camera, get a child, Mazepin's ready."
It's true though. It's true. Oh God!
He
It's
just
a
don't
classic
get a break.
case of when money talks in F1, isn't it? So.
Well, yeah,
Well,
true.
that's the thing. We've got a few now, haven't we?
Well,
But
we'll...
yeah, but that's again. That's hopefully if this is why I said if teams can afford it more, then they wouldn't have to rely on drivers' income. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's so hopefully next year's rules will help towards that. But
well, whilst we're on this topic of obviously money and drivers, I think this kind of is a good segue into something actually I was going to talk about next. Alfa Romeo.
Yeah.
Obviously, Giovinazzi has, I mean, in my opinion, probably the second worst kept secret in F1 this season after the George to Mercedes news that Guan Yu Zhou was going to replace Giovinazzi. I don't know if any of you guys saw that Shanghai Alfa Romeo dealership photo saying about China's first F1 driver. This was before he was announced as, their driver. Obviously, there's a lot of controversy around that because he is a pay driver. You know, he has this backing, this financial backing, and a lot of people disagree with pay drivers. Obviously, you know, we've got a few, Latifi, Mazepin. You know, I don't know what's your guys' sort of opinion on a whole replacement of Giovinazzi and sort of who they've decided to replace him with.
I think I always want to give an F2 driver a chance.
Yeah.
There probably is better drivers in the sport at the moment in F2. I'm not gonna lie.
There is 100%.
Piastri.
Absolutely.
Oscar Piastri.
And Piastri is definitely one. I think for Piastri though, he's come from F3 from last season. So
I mean he's still quite young.
Yeah, he's still
still very young. So I wouldn't want to throw him into a sort of an F1 environment where it's as much as like F2 gives you a little bit. F1, it's a completely different ball game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's just not a few mechanics. You've got a whole set of engineers that are all demanding information left, right, and centre. So for a young age to be able to deal with that, you need a sometimes having 2 or 3 seasons in F2 is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
So the fact Johnny Joe's had a 2 or 3 seasons in F2 is probably not a bad thing.
No.
So I'm always willing to see, like, we don't know how good he's going to be until he steps in one of those cars. So, like, until then, like, until his first 5 races, I'm not going to judge the guy.
No.
To be honest. And I think with Giovinazzi, I think apart from like Giovinazzi for me, just like he was the performances like this season, I think have just come a bit too late now.
Yeah, like the Q3 appearances.
Yeah, so 2019 didn't really do much. Though I did meet him for breakfast in the Marriott Hotel. It was part of an F1 experience package for that Grand Prix, so don't worry about it. Cool. But it just happened to be in the same hotel as the Alfa Romeo team. But I did say thank you to him like after he spun out and gave the safety car to let Hamilton to win the race. So yeah, I did say thanks for that, guys. But I feel that with Giovinazzi, it was just like if there was any good sort of talent, it was just coming a bit too late. And
Yeah.
I think the decision had been made probably a lot
while ago.
more before that they were going to get rid of him. Who they're going to replace him with is another matter.
Yeah,
I do agree. Oh, sorry, go on, Charles.
I was just going to say before I come to you, can we all just take a minute to cry for Callum Ilott?
That's what I was literally about to.
Oh, did you see his Instagram post? Maybe one day.
No.
Maybe one day. That's what he put.
Well, we had him on our predictions.
We did.
As Ilott in that second seat. I think with Giovinazzi, I understand what you're saying, that it's kind of this good little spell has potentially come too late.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a big one for changing 2 drivers in one season. Haas did it.
Yeah, prime example.
Well, I think you're unset, and I understand you know, if it's not working, you need change. But I think Giovinazzi isn't that bad of a driver.
No.
I think he's a pretty decent driver. So I think keep the ship a little bit steady. Keep Giovinazzi in that seat for one more season. See what he can do whilst you've got Bottas next to him as well. So it's, you know, there's a little bit of competition more so. Because we all know Raikkonen was just there for fun.
Oh, he's there for the radio, mate.
Just enjoys his time, doesn't he? But I think it would have been nice to
don't ask him for a drink.
You will not have the drink.
It would have been nice to have Giovinazzi another season just to see what he could potentially do if we are seeing that bit of talent from him. Because then it could have given us an extra season, then bring Piastri in. I think, are we bringing in Zoe for the sake of it? Yeah. For the money. Yeah. If he does well, I'm excited. To see. It'll be great to see, you know, someone do well, especially in an Alfa Romeo when you've got Valtteri Bottas next to them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not 100% sold yet.
Yeah, I think it's one of them wait and see sort of things. Like I said, you can't really judge until you see him in the car. Like I said, I don't know if it's just like a thing. Like I would have loved to have seen Callum Ilott in that seat. I think he deserves it. I think he should have got a seat the year that Schumacher got a seat.
In IndyCar this season as well.
Yeah, it worries me that he won't ever get the chance. That's what worries me.
Don't think he will.
I don't think he will, and that really, really worries me. It's like, for example, Nick de Vries. Like he won F2, didn't he? Obviously went to Formula E, won that, but I don't think he'll ever get a chance in F1 either. And again, he wasn't he? He was one we talked about in our predictions as well.
Yeah, we put at Williams.
Yeah, but I just can't. I think because we didn't see Albon, did we?
Because he didn't have a sponsor. McLaren let him go. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And as soon as McLaren let him go, that was it. Bang. He was to sort of get the seat.
Exactly. Just a quick one as well, because obviously we're going back a little bit here. Just quickly on the Mercedes appeal.
Mm-hmm.
What do you lot think? I mean, personally, I don't really know, to be honest with you. It's one of them things you said before, you know, about the penalties potentially could, you know, change in the championship.
Yeah.
That's what concerns me about that one. Again, I don't know what you two think. I mean, maybe, Stephen, you might feel like he wants, you know, he deserves a penalty because...
Right.
What do you think?
I think when it comes down to it, like...
It's back.
Well, I'll just
we know.
I'll completely screw it up. Right, there you go.
There you go. Right. Give him Max penalty.
Yeah, give him Max a penalty. The reason I'm saying it, and look, it's not just this incident.
Mm-hmm.
So many times I've watched him, and Leclerc came out and said it as well. He had the same thing in Austria in 2019. Like, fighting for a win, bumped off the circuit. Right, the steering wheel magically wasn't turned in fully locked into our tight hairpin, right, and he's been bumped off the circuit. So this ain't the first time he's done it. So, and then like in Monza, he does it in turn 1, and then expects like Lewis to just let him through into the in when he comes out the pit stops, when he's nowhere alongside him. So what does he do? Bumps on the curbs and just takes him out and lands the car on top of his head. And if it weren't for the halo, Lewis Hamilton would have been dead.
Exactly.
So,
Well, yeah, that's
yeah,
exactly.
and there you go. And people want to sit there and say that's Hamilton's fault. Well, you can cite his opinion, but you clearly don't know anything about overtaking in F1. But it's those build up of accidents and the fact that he's so many times I've seen it and it's getting away with it. Even the British Grand Prix 2019 is like he nearly took out the McLaren mechanics in the pit lane. Like that close from the head
my
mechanic,
God,
one
yeah.
of the mechanics.
Yeah.
Like, and I didn't care there was Max Verstappen in front of me. I was like, "What are you doing?" Like side by side with Leclerc down the pit lane because he's nearly taken out mechanics, right? And he said, "I'm literally sitting there saying he is going to kill someone." Mexico 2019. What do you do in qualifying? Oh yeah, ignore yellow flags. And what do you do? Yeah, it seems you lift off. Did you? It seems you didn't lift off in that final lap, did you? No, I didn't.
I think it just
like he treats it like it's a joke. I'm sorry. He needs to start getting punished for these things.
to make an example of him.
Yeah, I think
Hamilton got it in 2011. Hamilton got it big time in 2011. Every single thing he did seemed to get a penalty every single time. And some of it too right, because you have that part as a driver, right? And I feel now it's going at a point where if he carries on, he has got what that move showed to me was he has got the mental capacity to send that car diving in down the inside, knowing if it takes out Lewis Hamilton, he doesn't care, he wins the title.
Yeah, I do think
do what Senna did to Prost.
With Verstappen, his temper is his demise, and I think once he gets in his head, there is no rational thoughts whatsoever.
Yeah.
He will do anything. He just doesn't think about it. And that incident where he could, if the halo didn't exist, he could have killed Hamilton.
Yeah.
That was the epitome of Max Verstappen and his anger.
Yes.
And I am with you actually. I did say that I feel like, right, Hamilton won the race, like let's just leave it. It's not like it hindered Hamilton's race. He won, he's got the points, let's leave it. But actually now listening to you, Josh Verstappen head case as well. But I just think actually, I think it's kind of like a 3 strikes you're out. Like, let's make an example. How many times can you keep getting away with these incidents and not be made an example of? So you're just going to continue doing it until it progressively gets worse, and as you say, potentially put someone's life at risk. I'm a fan of Max Verstappen, but you've got to. I think if you want to be a fan of Max Verstappen, which a lot of fans don't, you have to realize what he can be like.
Yeah,
and how irrational he can drive.
Yeah, and that's what makes me think like that incident itself. So a lot of Max fanboy, like, because obviously you've got Max Verstappen fans and you've got fanboys, who are passionate, who can't do no wrong. And a lot of people on Twitter who are like that are like, oh, he didn't do anything wrong, like blah blah. He had the right to take the corner however he wanted. Well, no, you don't take that corner like that. You go for the apex. You don't.
I'm sitting there.
That's not how you take that corner.
I'm sorry. I'm sitting there and I'm watching 3 people on a stream, sitting there on someone else doing a watch along, sitting there going, like jumping up and down because they think that sort of move, like, and also that sort of move in Monza, by the way, right, is quite legitimate. They're quite happy to celebrate that, and they said, oh, if they take out Lewis, it's about time we have Hamilton in the wall. Like,
that's not the right mindset.
Sorry, if you've got that sort of, if you're quite happy to say that on a live stream as an F1 fan, stop watching the sport right now.
Not a fan.
No sympathy of safety and how many people have died to get this sport safe as it is, and it still ain't safe. It never will be. So
I agree.
Like, and you are part of the problem, fueling like this guy's ego to think that he's above the rules and everything else, because
Yeah.
it seems to be that it should be one rule for him and one rule for everyone else. Well, I'm sorry, it don't work like that. And Hamilton's quite aptly on a number of times said, like he said after British Grand Prix, I'm not backing down for anyone.
No.
Right? If he wants to get past me, he's gonna have to do it the fair way. Like, and if you watch it frame by frame, and I'll do this later, he was side by side. I don't care what anyone says. He was side by side with Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
That means he's entitled to space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Max said,
Every time.
yeah, exactly. Max said, that's not how you take that corner. You don't. It was just the way he did it.
In the press
He went wide.
conference. I'm sorry. He said in the press conference just earlier, like, oh, I couldn't turn in anymore, otherwise I would spin. I've watched onboards of F1 cars for loads of years now. I know I don't drive them, right? But my God, I've seen that onboard so many times. Like, there is no way that car was so unstable that he could not turn in a bit more. Are you basically saying that car is like the Haas car?
Exactly.
It's like
Or
the
is he
worst
saying
car
he
on the
can't
grid?
handle his own car?
Yeah,
Which we know he can.
So if that's the case, then why are you sending it down the inside and putting that much trust in the car to be able to turn in?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Like I said, it's one of them. It's a bit like coming back to the fact that he doesn't care about his sort of what he's doing.
And then
for example,
you've got Horner behind him going, "Oh, it's hard racing." No, it's hard racing when it bloody suits you, mate.
Well, it's like when he was, when he was weaving on the straight, and he was like, "Oh, you've got a black and white flag weaving on the straight," and he was like, "I'll tell him I said hi." Like that sort of cockiness, like he thinks he's above it. Well, no, you're not. You don't do that, and you're going to get penalised for it if you do it. You know, if you keep doing it. So just you're the same as everyone else. Like, sit down. Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
Like, sit back down.
But yeah, my dad used to say from a quote from the films, like, "Shut up, sit down, have a Coke and a smile."
Yeah, that's what he needs to do. But yeah, I mean, now really the next kind of thing and last thing kind of thing to talk about is Qatar. I mean, obviously it's an unknown. I know, obviously, me and my dad watched a bit of MotoGP, so I've seen MotoGP race at Qatar, and it's an interesting circuit. Whether we see how the F1 cars deal with it, obviously, it's completely, it's one of them, isn't it? Obviously, Pinnacle, was it the third to last race this one now? So obviously, Max is 14 points ahead in the championship. Mercedes are 11 points ahead in the drivers. So, this is one of them races. This is one of them races that can, it's one of them races that could decide things.
Yeah,
it could. It's getting to crunch time now, where every single race is important, and what happens is, I mean, obviously they're important anyway, but I'm just intrigued with this sort of pressure on a track that they've never raced on. I feel like is going to be very interesting, to say the least.
Do you think we should round it by saying who we think we're going to have as a 1, 2, 3?
Oh.
Yeah, so at the minute it's 14 points between the top two in the drivers, and for the teams,
I think it's 11.
I believe it's 11 points as well. So
crunch time.
Yeah, it is crunch time now. You can't make any mistakes now. You don't want to give away any penalties either. And
no, definitely.
This is why they took their penalty in Brazil, not in Qatar.
Yes.
Because they don't know what Qatar is going to be like. It's completely unknown. And I'm looking at the circuit, it looks interesting. I've never watched your MotoGP much, so I actually don't have a clue what this circuit's about. So, but watching it, it's been, I'd say, a kilometre straight will help overtaking, so there will be chances.
Yeah.
I think turn 1 is looking like your only option for that circuit. Looking at all the twisty section is, it's kind of reminds me a bit like how Bahrain's outer circuit is.
Yes.
Yeah.
A bit, but a lot more to it, and it is also a bit like Interlagos, where it's got one long, massive straight.
There's a huge straight, isn't there?
Yeah. So, and if that's the case, then well, then Mercedes should like have the edge.
Yeah, so what-
Maybe they said that actually like it's mainly down to a power base sort of circuit,
Yeah.
and if you've got a new fresh engine in you can have quite an advantage.
Go on then. What's your top 3 predictions then?
I'll go for Lewis, absolutely.
Second and third,
I'll be nice. I'll give Verstappen second,
and then third.
but I'd say Bottas.
Ooh. Go on, Lars. What are you thinking?
I'm going Bottas, not Bottas. Hamilton, Verstappen,
Anyone
Perez.
Verstappen.
Perez. Oh, I'm gonna go boring. Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas. Hamverbot. Hamverbot. Oh, here's an interesting one. We've just had Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen. So that order. Hamilton signs Verstappen.
Ooh,
Mark with with the predictions.
I don't know where, unless like Ferrari are gonna put NOS in their frigging engine or something.
Hey, you never know.
And they're gonna do a Fast and Furious and put NOS down there straight with an extra boost. like bring back the also Kerr system as long as the ERS system to have an extra 60 horsepower. Like
you never know. Stranger things have happened.
Never know. It could do. Like yeah, it's definitely controversial. I can give it that one.
But
I don't see it, but
you never know. Honestly, like could be a crazy race. You just don't know what to expect these days. But on that note, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Obviously, we've talked for a while. But like I said, final thoughts. It's it's a bit of an unknown, and we'll just sort of see what happens and see what implications it'll have on the championship.
Yes.
But obviously, thanks for watching, everyone. Stephen, do you want to go and tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, S3 TV, as we do Arsenal and F1 content, well, to the end of the season, and then we'll think about separating and doing our own channel on the F1 side. But yeah, we do F1 content on there for now, but and it's all to raise money for Children's Villages for the foundation. So everything we do raises money for Children's Villages.
I'll leave links to all that in the description as well, so you can go and check that out. Lars, where can they find you?
Instagram, Twitter, at Lauren Page Souls. You get your F1, your football, and your boxing on there. I've also got a new channel that we'll be setting up very soon, which will be a boxing channel. And also, if anyone's still watching, come and join me in Chelsea on She Devils. Now we're going straight over there.
Yeah, dedicated. For me, you can go and find me on Instagram at Chelsea Trafford, on Twitter at Chel UTD, where I tweet about football and F1. So, yeah, that's pretty much that.
I need to talk about football now.
But yeah, that was pretty much everything. Obviously, thank you everyone for watching, and we hope you enjoyed. We'll be back hopefully very soon with a new video. We're not going to be slacking. We're going to get back on it. We'll get some more guests on. Obviously, you're more than welcome to come back on, Stephen, because you've been great. So yeah, we'd love to have you back on again. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. But yeah, thank you for watching, everyone.